What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to What's Your Story? I'm super excited to have my guest on today. I got my buddy Matt here. We've been trying to do this for probably, I would say, almost a year. I feel like between my Molten Mind and Body podcast, the What's Your Story we started. So it's been a long time. That being said, he's someone I originally met. I feel like a lot of people I met, but back at Springfield. It was my first year. He was a freshman. I was transferring at a junior. I feel like we connected pretty well because we were both kind of into the exercise science side, physical therapy, strength and conditioning. I know at that time you were a little more into the Olympic weightlifting side. I was more into the bodybuilding, but we both kind of, had a respect for that. And we were in the gym a ton. So, what's awesome and I like about Matt is he continued to go through school, went from PT originally, decided to go into chiropractic, now getting close to actually getting into the field of chiropractic and being in chiropractic school. Competitive Olympic weightlifter, I would say, and crushing it in that. So someone, if you're into PT, chiropractic, exercise science, weightlifting, someone definitely you want to get to know. But that being said, Matt, I want to welcome you on the show, man.
Hey, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm really humbled and grateful to be here. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
Get this rolling.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I kind of want to start this off, let people get to know you a little bit better, maybe at a deeper level. I'm sure a lot of people follow you on Facebook, Instagram. You're posting your lifts and crushing new PRs, it seems like, consistently. But I kind of want to let them know, and anyone on my side of it is kind of, how did you get into this? Where did you get started on the fitness side or working out in general?
So for me, the journey has been about, I would say, 9 years at this point in time. So I really started when I was 12 years old. I was diagnosed with bilateral multi-directional instability, which is essentially just a hyperlaxity of the shoulder joints, very simplistically speaking. Essentially, it limited me a lot in a lot of the sports I wanted to play. I was a big avid baseball player my whole life. I was a catcher. I loved it. But I started to have overuse in both shoulders. I had cortisone injections up the wazoo, arthrograms done in both shoulders. And I was told that I wasn't able to do anything, essentially, that I wasn't able to play. I had to just do any other sport that didn't require my arms, which really, at that point, being a young kid, it scares you, it really makes you question what's going to be the rest of my life like. And as I got a little bit older, around like 15 years old, still living with that diagnosis in my head, I actually met a really great individual at my high school who has an immense strength and conditioning background. And I kind of started talking to him, and he's like, listen, come to my gym. It's 2 towns over, 1 town over. Let's just get you under a barbell and see what happens. And I went, okay. I went there probably 2 weeks later with one of my best friends, and I was sore as heck for about an entire week. Couldn't walk up and down the stairs. Dude, it was a introductory CrossFit gym. So it wasn't a CrossFit gym, but they utilized some of the modalities. And that's kind of where that all started for me.
Gotcha.
Kind of made that transition to more of like the resistance training, weightlifting type side of things. So.
Gotcha. So initially, though, you were huge into baseball. See, I forgot about that because that was my sport literally growing up. I wanted to be Nomar Garcia Parra. Like, that was who I wanted to be. And then I got injured, blew my shoulder out, injuries, things like that. But so how long did you play baseball for? Did you think that was actually going to be something you could pursue at college and more?
Yeah. So I did a lot of sports growing up. Did about 13 years of martial arts. 13 years of baseball. Did a lot of track and field and cross country, but baseball and martial arts were 2 of my largest sports that I partook in year round.
Sure.
And then I always thought I'm going to play in college. I'm going to play a lot in high school and, try to see where it goes for me. And then that happened, and it kind of rewired my thinking in terms of what was best for me. And I found that individual sports worked really well for me. I always wanted to do the best I could, wanted the responsibility on myself to get the job done. And that's kind of what led me to this weightlifting route, the CrossFit type route. Competitively speaking now, as you said, I am a weightlifter now. I tried competitive CrossFit for a while, and we can talk about this later. I had a really hard transition from CrossFit into competitive weightlifting a few years back. So that's really where it's been for me.
Okay. When you got into high school, so you said you started to really get into it. You were in that different age range, started working out. If you had to say, what kind of kid were you in high school?
I was everyone's friend. I was a great friend. Everyone knows how that goes. I did everything. I was in National Honor Society, student council. I was in 3 music groups. I was a full-time varsity athlete
You can
year
sing
round.
too, can't you?
Yeah, man, I can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there. I forgot about it.
yeah.
It just
I've been
clicked in
singing
my head
since I was
again.
5. So yeah, the
Yeah.
music background, the other part of my brain has always been there too. That taught me a lot as well. But
Sure.
essentially, the well-roundedness that I developed in high school is kind of
Sure.
what brought me to the point that I wanted to specialize into one specific attribute, one specific
Gotcha.
activity. So yeah, that's really where it was in high school. I did everything,
Yeah.
essentially.
So you're kind of the guy who knew everybody, friends with everybody. That
Yeah,
type of
oh
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was very similar to me. I didn't really have a group. I just kind of I knew everyone, but that was really never close with a ton of people.
Yeah.
So, so moving into college now, this is kind of where you got more into, obviously, we started to lead you into today, I guess, is, when you got to Springfield, why did you choose Springfield? And did you know kind of right away you wanted to go strength conditioning or things like that?
So just from my experiences with my mentor over the years, I found that strength and conditioning, exercise science, that type of field is something that I really wanted to partake in and develop myself into leading towards as a professional. I just didn't know 100% what route I wanted to go. But after doing a lot of research, I knew that exercise physiology, exercise science was the bread and butter for what I know I could do to at least get a foundation of the knowledge needed to move forward in the future. And I knew that Springfield College was the founder, essentially.
Yeah.
Ground zero for exercise science. And I applied there in 2 other schools. And just so happened that Springfield College was the one that chose me. So
it worked out in that aspect.
Amazingly. Yeah.
So at what point in Springfield did you start to decide that, maybe, because you said PT. So I guess what was your thought on PT initially? And then what made you start to think you wanted to go more into that chiropractic route?
Sure. So I was actually in the midst of setting up for prerequisite courses to go into doctoral school for PT. I was taking all the prerequisite math classes and starting to take those science classes about freshman, sophomore year, thinking that's really where I wanted to go. And then I was talking to one of my friends in my really close-knit group. You remember them. And,
yeah.
Yeah, you remember the 5 of them, 6 of them.
Oh,
so
yeah. You guys kind of went everywhere together, yeah.
Yeah. And then one of my buddies like, I'm actually going to go to chiropractic school. I'm like, chiropractic school, like what? I was like in the back of my mind, but nothing in the forefront, And he was like, you should really look into it. So I looked into the program for about a year and a half, Jeff. Like this was like a very, very, very long, drawn out decision. It took a long time, really long process, right? And then I realized from a business perspective, from an overall prerequisite perspective in terms of my current education, I could go right into chiropractic school, do exactly what I want to do, regardless if I'm a physical therapist or a chiropractic physician, and come right out and start helping people. So that's kind of where it took me. And I'm so grateful that I'm in this position. It was probably one of the best decisions for me professionally. So
yeah, I agree. I think chiropractic, we talked about briefly before, the chiropractic is just like the way of the future. It's growing so much. People more and more, and like, everyone talks about this opioid epidemic, all these things, pain pills, and it's such a different route that you could, people walking with back pain, and obviously there's a process to a lot of it, but like, some adjustments or some movements, and it's like, boom, it's like I can touch my toes and I have no back pain, but I've had pain for 10 years. It's like, it's wild the direction that it's, I think if more people could go that route before going so many other ways, it's so good. It's, to me, like I've done it for 10 years. So, no, I love that side of it. So we started to talk about this a little. So now you're going to the chiropractic side of it, but in the middle of this whole process while you're at college too, what got you into, I want to flip the script to the fitness side. What got you into CrossFit? Because you started to get into, weightlifting a little bit, kind of did the introductory CrossFit-esque strength conditioning workout. And then what brought you into CrossFit? And then when that flipped, what kind of made you want to go into the weightlifting side, Olympic weightlifting?
Honestly, that decision to make the switch was one of the hardest things I had to do in my entire life. It was a complete 180 for me. When I was, like I said, 15 with my mentor, going through that time of just developing the CrossFit side of things, I knew I wanted to be competitive to some extent in terms of this fitness realm, whatever that means.
Right.
And I started pushing for the CrossFit Open and CrossFit Regionals for years, trying very hard to push for that. The goal was the CrossFit Games for the longest time.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it. Like, if you get there, I'm going to it.
Yeah, and we, I say we because I had a lot of friends and mentors that helped me get to this point. So it's not just me, it's we. And then one day, I was about 20, 21, I sat down with one of my best friends from back home, who's my gym partner, actually. We sat down And we discussed, he goes, listen, I really think this weightlifting side of things is really where we, as the two of us, could really excel in. Look at these numbers, look at the national rankings. We could do that if we just stop trying to push this CrossFit thing on us, stop physically beating us up in that respect, and apply our genetic predisposition towards weightlifting and just seeing where that goes. And I was like, I was scared. I was petrified.
Why were you scared?
Because going from one form of thinking that you're already so comfortable with, and making this leap to a complete change in terms of my thought process and competitive outlook, I didn't know what to expect. It was a complete change for me. And, I took that leap. And then from there, my first meet, I qualified for University Nationals. And that's kind of where it took me. Yeah, so I didn't compete at U Nationals, but it gave me at least a sign to know that this was the right route for me. So that's kind of where that transition went. And that's where I am now.
Do you feel like it was just more the fear of like, I won't be good. I don't know if I'll be good. I'm already kind of good at this. Like, what's going to happen?
I've never been, I have a lot of confidence in my abilities as a person, and as an athlete, and as an individual, in a way that's healthy for myself and the people around me. I think there's a big difference between humble and conceitedness in terms of the confidence that you have in yourself.
Sure.
And then how you portray that to the people around you, right? So I knew in my heart that I could excel in this and do well in it. It was more of a matter of the transition that scared me, in terms of, I was confident that I was going to do well, but I wasn't sure how the process was going to go, how long was it going to take. And it was just a really big alteration for me in terms of mindset and competitiveness overall. So that's the process was really a little bit more that kind of threw me off to a degree, but I'm happy I did it.
Yeah. How old are you now?
24.
Okay. I was trying to think if you're 24. I couldn't remember the exact age.
24.
So if someone's not sure of it, and I guess I'm curious in general, what is the biggest difference from the CrossFit side for you to the Olympic weightlifting side, where the biggest switch mentally, because CrossFit's very, very high intense, conditioning, breathing heavy, million different things you got to prepare for, compared to Olympic weightlifting is really broken down into like two main components. So like, what was the biggest difference for you mentally, making like transitioning?
And I can tell you too, mentally, it was probably one of the best decisions I could make too. As you know already, and we could have this conversation separately, it's very, CrossFit in itself is very glycolytic. You're constantly accumulating blood lactate. You're sore every day. DOMS is a normal occurrence on a daily basis. And I always felt that I needed to push myself to 100% plus every day.
Right. And
that 100% is way more difficult, for me at least, than the 100% that you can put into Olympic weightlifting. Yeah. Different energy systems are involved, different training concepts, different methodologies in order to get the job done competitively. Switching over to weightlifting, I've developed more patience. I've developed the ability to slow myself down in the moment, which I didn't think I had the ability to do within competitive CrossFit. I found that I recovered better from Olympic weightlifting.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Right. When
you're not go, drive yourself into the ground, failure type stuff.
And obviously, don't get me wrong, the sessions are hard, especially at this point. I'm prepping for a meet in 4 weeks. Right. So we're in the midst of my peaking phase right now. It's getting very, very difficult. But this type of difficult is way more enjoyable for me versus what it used to be with the CrossFit side of things, competitively speaking. Solely competitively speaking, not in terms of general health and fitness. So
right. So you're not. Are you more now like with the Olympic weightlifting? Is it, you just said you were getting ready to peak for something? What do you have a competition coming? And then also, are you just peaking at higher percentages now? So it's more of like, not that high intensity stuff. It's more calm yourself for one big movement and one big higher percentage.
Sure. So we could also have this discussion of law of specificity, right? So as we get closer to the end goal, which is the event, we have to become more and more specific, while further away from the meet, developing more general qualities that are going to carry over, right? So in the beginning, I was doing more complexes, a lot of hang positions above the knee, a lot of power positioning. If you know weightlifting, you'll understand. Yeah. That's another conversation for another day. Yeah. Just more general, lighter intensity, more volume-based, more repetitions going through the motions, just developing those skill qualities that I would need weeks later, which is at this point, to develop the heavier intensities and the less volume so it carries over to the meet the best way possible. So now at this point, I've gotten away from the higher volumes. The loads have increased exponentially, and the volume has dropped significantly. I went from doing sets of 5 and 4s for snatching to now doing singles and doubles.
Right. But so you're obviously moving more weight, theoretically.
Right. And the work capacity I've accrued over the course of 7 weeks now has made that immensely beneficial for me in terms of my overall outlook for this meet. I really do feel that I could hit a national qualifying total, and that would be something for me to just know that, like, I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
So not just university nationals, this is like big time, like the national level competition, and at least getting a bare minimum total I would love, just to kind of say that I'm there and then build off of that. So yeah, right now it's a lot of doubles, a lot of singles, a lot of very, very heavy loads. Like I'm working at, like later on today when I go to train, I have to hit 90+% of my snatches.
Yeah, so, no joke.
Nope, not at all. So, but I love that though. That's my CrossFit workout now. You know?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's same. I mean, it's different movements, different, completely dynamic, but it's the concept too with like a powerlifting. You know, you're going for a big deadlift. It's getting those higher percentages, the volume, similar concepts. So what was I going to say? What is the next competition? So how long is it from you now? And where is that one?
So I am 4 weeks out, and it is at Robinson Weightlifting over in Franklin, Mass. So it's like, I think it's like 35, 40 minutes for me.
Do you have the weight class you're going for?
I am 81 kilogram.
Okay.
So that is no more than, I believe it's like a $178.2 roughly.
Like
I'm sitting like a pound over right now.
So you're in a really good spot.
I'm in a really good spot. So, and you know just as much as I do weight cutting. And,
it's horrible.
Yeah, but for me, I can just not eat for the day, and then pound and a half will be gone, and I'll be good. So I'm not worried about it. I can go without food for a little while, so I feel comfortable with that. That's not going to be an issue. I fluctuate weight up and down really quickly.
Yep. So I'm curious now, we haven't really talked about this, but you made me think about it because it's obviously a big part of the training, whether you're doing Olympic weightlifting, CrossFit. What does your nutrition look like? Obviously, there's a million different ways for it. Do you follow anything specific? Obviously, maybe you have your own thing. What is kind of your view on the nutrition side, or what you do for yourself? Maybe not advice for people. What are you kind of doing?
Sure. So I've been playing around with my diet for at least a year or 2 years now. I was very low carb at one point, no keto or anything like that, just trying it and seeing how my body felt. Now I'm in more of like a moderate to high carb, lower fat. So now I'm trying to find myself like in the middle at this point. So in the morning, I'll have, for example, a bagel, some eggs and bacon, some guacamole, piece of fruit, cup of coffee, done.
Yep.
As the day goes on, I'll have really ground meat and some jasmine rice and veggies. That's been working really well for me. And that's really been the mainstay of my diet the past couple of weeks, especially being at school. You have to keep things simple. I'm trying my best to meal prep more now. I was not doing as good of a job of that a couple months ago, but I'm doing a better job of it now.
Gotcha.
And especially with the amount of fatigue that I'm accumulating with this training cycle, like Jeff, I went from, like I did a big strength block for a year and a half to prep just to get back into competition. I haven't competed in over a year, but I went from doing 6, 7 exercises in a training session, doing 3, maybe 4 at this point, because that's how much Olympic weightlifting taxes you.
Right.
Neurologically, but also your perception of fatigue definitely changes. So
it's so explosive, you know?
Yeah, it's just a completely different modality. So for me, what's been working for me is that more of like a moderate carb type diet. Obviously, you're not really utilizing much glucose in one bout of an Olympic weightlifting session.
Right.
You know, a little bit here and there, but as we know, ATP CP runs the show essentially for that type of movement. Right. Unless we're doing repetitive bouts over and over again on a timer and all that.
Right.
But yeah,
unless you're doing like the higher rep stuff, right?
I've been eating a lot more too. My caloric intake has gone up exponentially. I don't count. I don't keep track of my macros. I eyeball everything because that works for me. I don't know if that doesn't necessarily mean other people will benefit from it, but for me, that's worked very well, and my body weight has stayed relatively the same. I weigh myself once or twice a week at the gym I go to at school, and I'm sitting right around that 178, 180 range. So,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. If you're that repetitive too, unless you're drastically changing anything, your weight should stay the same if you're at maintenance for the most part.
Yeah, and I find that, the increased expenditure of my calories versus, the increased caloric intake I have has, like you said, really evened itself out. So it's not like I'm doing less activity and eating more calories and I bump up to 190. which I've done before, and that is not fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried that too. So
Well, it's hard for me if from my perspective is like, obviously like that works well for you. I've done that in the past. If I don't track my food or like document it at all, like I use my FitnessPal, but I don't use it as like a religious thing. I'm just, even if I'm off a little, that's just for me. Cause I could easily, if I naturally just eat, I'll probably eat like 2,000 to 2,500 calories, where like I've lost weight. I got really sick over the last couple of weeks, all this stuff. But like when I would say in the best spot, 185-ish is where I felt like the best. And for me, I need, 34 to 3,600 to maintain that,
sure.
So
Yeah.
like for me, it was, I could easily just not eat it. So it's interesting too, because it's just different for everybody. But I have to psychologically think about eating all the time, or I've even played with like fasting and stuff. It's more of, I'm a bigger meal guy in general. I don't do like snacks. It's just like eat the meal. So I'm going to flip the script a little bit on it. Going back to the chiropractic side. So you're 2 years left now. So moving forward, do you have any specific goals with it, or is it just getting through this process? Because obviously, are you shadowing with someone right now or anything like that?
So when I'm home, I work full time as a rehab specialist for a chiropractic office. So I do that when I'm home.
Gotcha.
But not
right now you're at the school side of it.
Yeah.
And then soon to come and that side of it. Is there any direction, like, is there anything where, like, specific area you're looking to go with it or anything like that right now? Like, maybe, are you open to moving across the country to do it? Or do you have somewhere you're trying to look into?
Yeah. So I'm open to any opportunity that comes my way, but I know for me, my largest goal with this profession is to develop as many skills as I can as a clinician to help people to better themselves through movement and exercise. Honestly, at this point, I want to be able to have a person come in to see me that has low back pain, and I can know just from my assessment and my clinical expertise if that's cancer or not. I think that's something that will separate myself in terms of what I know now as a strength and conditioning student and as an exercise physiology student, to now being a clinician and be able to amalgamate those two concepts together to give patients the best care possible. I want to treat patients like not just as a doctor-patient relationship, but as a athlete-coach type relationship where they come in to see me and it's like, yes, I may provide some soft tissue and maybe provide manipulation, but all those tools for me are just with goal orientation to get people to movement and exercise, make them feel a little bit better just so they feel more confident to move. And then that's when, really for me, my office one day, I want to be a gym. I want them to be able to come in. Yeah, I want them to be able to come in. All right, do we need to get you on the table today? Okay, fine. We're going to spend 5-10 minutes doing passive modalities, whatever they may be, depending on the person. Then, okay, we're going to get you up. Let's go load you. Let's go get you moving. For me, those modalities act more as it's like writing a lengthy Word document.
Right.
You're constantly feeding your nervous system with this information to increase range of motion, temporarily decrease perception of pain, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't hit save, what's the point? So for me, loading those tissues from a physical sense, but also a neurological sense and psychosocial, gives these patients and athletes per se the opportunity to feel more confident in terms of their movement. And then you kind of combine passive and active together. And I've found that works really well for people. So my whole goal, I feel at this point, is to really combine general population strength and conditioning with the clinical aspects of chiropractic medicine in a way that's most beneficial for the people around me. And wherever that takes me to get started, great. As long as I'm able to provide that concept to my patients when I'm out in the real world, awesome. I think for me, I want to develop my own business one day and start doing it that way. But at least initially speaking, I want the business that I take part in for my first couple of years in practice to allow me to use those concepts to the best of my ability. So
yeah, I can relate to that side of it to an extent too, is because I can't tell you how many times I've been in the past been adjusted, and you get pain free and you feel better. But for example, broke my femur, my ankle mobility, and I have so much scar tissue in it is trash, and my hip and my for my femur going into the hip, and like there's so much tissue issue in there. Mobility's not great, doesn't sit deep in the socket, so it was locked for so long where I was getting my whole pelvis rotated and I was getting a ton of back pain, sciatic pain, because my whole pelvis was anteriorly rotated and twisted, and my spinal erector was overdeveloped, and it was pulling it, and it was this mess. But the problem was I kept sinking into my right hip, and I couldn't get into my left. So I kept compensating, and I get adjusted, I'd feel better, but I was not doing like any type of like glute med work. I wasn't doing any sitting into the single leg hip work. I wasn't doing band work and activation work, which I leave pain free, but then I wasn't doing any of that PT or extra work to get my femur moving better in the socket. So it was a never ending battle for years and years and years until I finally got someone that, and partially me just doing my own research, that was like, oh, I kind of have to work with a PT and this just to get that hip moving right, or you're never going to feel better.
Right. So, and it's like, yes, you can work with both professionals to get the job done, but I always feel that it's best to find one clinician that can provide you both aspects of the treatment plan. Anybody with low back pain that I see, can you stand on one leg? If you can't stand on one leg, there's opportunity for growth there, and we can develop that in many different ways.
Well, I think it makes sense. It's hard, to your point, is not how many people truly are out there that say do chiropractic work that aren't just going in for a 7 to 10 minute adjustment, and they're like, okay, I need you to do this, but you're not physically doing it with them. So it's hard. You very rarely see that, at least around me. My chiro will do like soft tissue work first, but they have a massage therapist come in, do a little soft tissue on where you're best up, do your adjustments, do some electric stim, and then you're out the door. Right. But I think that makes sense for you moving forward. If you can develop something like that or create your own like that, I think it's, from at least what I've seen, it's very different than most of the chiropractors I've ever seen. So it puts you in like almost a different category. Right? So, and you could see people through the whole process, not just acute injuries. So, okay, I'm flipping it again, but this is to your point. You kept going in the direction. How do you, or have you always been as motivated or disciplined as you are now? Because obviously, so you started talking about in high school, you found your mentor, the working out was good. In high school, it's like, seems like working out, you've been very disciplined for the most part of your life. It seems like you've been very goal-oriented and driven. Was that more instilled as you as a kid, or is that something you've kind of found on your own through your own experience?
Honestly, Jeff, it really has been my whole life. Obviously, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but I've always strived to do the best I can in any endeavor. I put 100% to everything I do, and if I don't feel that I can put 100% of my effort into something, plain and simple, Jeff, I don't do it. I won't do it if I can't put my fullest intent and heart into that. So my parents have really been the start to this entire mindset for me, really. And then the mentors over the years have helped me to develop that too. But even as a kid, my parents have always pushed for me to do the best I can in all activities, all endeavors that I've taken part in. I mean, a little thing about the music side, per example, just to kind of give an example. When I was 12, I sang at Fenway Park. I had the opportunity to
remember you said that's so cool.
So that was a really big part of my life. But my dad and my mom had really pushed for me for like 2-3 years to just, you can do this. Like, you have the ability to do this. You have the talent. You can do this. Like, let's see where it goes. And then finally I did it. And that's just one example. Athletically, my parents have always supported me in that too. You want to do this? Great. We're going to allow you to do that. Have the confidence in yourself and don't let anybody get in your way or anything. So, and as I've gotten older,
it's obviously a support group was huge for you from right from the beginning.
100%. Yeah. I've always had a great support system, which I'm very grateful that I've had, because I know a lot of people don't have that. So,
yeah. And it's interesting too, because I had very supportive parents, but they were more of a coddling type parent. So that's why I think it took me like an extra 3 or 4 years to figure things out in my 18 to 22, because they weren't like, you need to go to college, or you push me to go to college. They were more of, if it makes you uncomfortable, it's okay not to do it, instead of kind of like push through the discomfort, and that's where you're going to grow.
Hey man, when I was 15, starting out with my mentor at that gym, the town over, I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning, ride my bike all the way over there, and if I wasn't there by 5 o'clock, I couldn't work out.
Yeah, that's what. So in that discipline, he was telling you right away.
Yeah.
Like, what do you have daily routines or things that you do? Like, for example, some people get up very routinely in the morning. They meditate, they do yoga, they work out, they do. Are there things, or even self-development, whether it's reading, listening to videos, podcasts? Are there things you do on a daily basis to continue to develop that mindset or continue to do those things?
Sure. So what I can tell you honestly, my morning routine has not been as efficient and as beneficial to me as it used to be, but my night routine has actually been very consistent. I use a positivity journal every night. I write down three good aspects of my day that happened. I write them down, and then I do a lot of deep, static stretching, which we could have that argument all day of is it beneficial, is it not? But for me, in terms of a way for me to fall asleep at night, it works immensely well. So I'll just sit in some positions, throw on some music, and just kind of, I guess you can say, meditate in those positions for about 10, 15 minutes, and I'm off to bed. So that's really where I'm at right now.
I'm sorry? Puts you in that parasympathetic relaxation state.
Yeah, it just down regulates you from the day. And again, that works for me. And that's been the most beneficial to me in terms of getting me to sleep at night, especially at school where I'm taking 12, 13 classes, 28 credits for the semester.
That's
it's
wild.
It's
very insane, actually.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever took over like 17, 18. So.
Right. And on top of trying to, make sure I'm training and taking care of myself socially and everything else, it's been a long drive, but there's no excuse. So I really try to make sure my night routine for the past couple of months has been very good. I've been trying very hard to do those things before I go to bed. And then that actually makes for a better morning for me the next day. Morning routine wise, I am striving to get up a little bit earlier. I'll be getting up like 7:30, which is actually really late for me at school. And I think a lot of it's from the fatigue I developed through the week. But I've been slowly trying to cut back the clock a little bit more so I get up earlier. I notice that my energy is better when I get up earlier. I notice I have an overall better day emotionally and mentally when I get up earlier. But I've also found that I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And we're going to have ups and downs in life. And we need to try to develop and work around them the best we can. So at this point, my morning routine is redeveloping, but my night routine is really, really good. And I've been doing really well with that. Even at home, my night routine's been the same. So
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How do you balance all of that? Is like, do you find yourself you're very, very good when it comes to like, I have to do I have an hour to do this, I have to do that. Like, how do you balance doing that much stuff, like in general?
I live, breathe, and die by my whiteboard calendar in my room.
Okay.
So I have that right above my desk. I write everything on there. People that ask me all the time of how can I organize myself better, I go, and not forget things, I go, write it down. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's right there. Like, once it leaves your mind on a piece of paper, you don't have to think about it anymore. Day to day, go look and be like, oh, that's what I have today. That's right. It saves a lot of mental stress and a lot of, I call it like cramming in the closet type, so to speak. So where you're kind of just putting all these thoughts in your head and they're kind of just moving around in there and you don't know what's coming next. Write it down. Look at it each day, and it'll kind of clean that closet out for you, so to speak. I use that for everything. I didn't bring it home. I took a picture of it just so I knew what my week was going to bring me. Because I'm not going to bring the calendar back and forth. Like, why do that when I can just take a picture on my phone? It's already written out. I knew today we had our podcast.
Right.
And, if things change for anything else in my life, I rewrite them. I erase them. The thought's gone. Okay, we're trying something new. We're going to move it to a different day. No problem. And I've allowed myself to be flexible, too. So if I need to push an exam forward in terms of studying time, I'll push it forward 2-3 days. No big deal. If I have to do a presentation, I have to move it back 2 days and do it a little bit earlier because I know later on in the week I'm not going to have a lot of time. Great, I'll do it a little bit earlier. And I kind of erase things, move them around. And that's kind of where I found that I can keep the most organized is when I just write it down. It leaves my mind and I can look at it day to day. And I think it allows me to be more present also, which is something I've been trying to do a better job of doing, is not worrying so much about what the future holds, but trying to do as best as I can in the present to make that future the best that I can. So
yeah, I mean, I think all that is super helpful for most people. Is just, it seems like it's just, well, you don't, and this is kind of a question too. It doesn't seem like you really, ponder or hold on to things too long. Like, there's so many people who like talk about doing something, or they dwell upon something. I have a test coming, and then they just complain and talk, and a day or 2 or 3 days go by, and you're not doing what you're talking about doing, or even hours in the day. Do you ever find yourself like, it seems like, do you find yourself that you, like, when you decide you want to do something, there's not a lot of pondering or wondering? It's like, boom, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to move on. Here we go. Like, it seems like with the amount of stuff you're balancing with your whiteboard, with how you just explained everything, like, I would say that's something I struggle with. I get in my own head very easily, and I got better with getting out of it. But it seems for me, it's like I want to do so many things that I kind of freeze. Or it seems like in your situation right now, you're pretty good at like associating what you want, write it down, plan it out, and then boom, I'm going to go execute.
And I feel that I do that very well, but as with anybody else, I have my own issues. I go see a counselor. I'm perfectly fine with saying that. I go to a counselor once a week at school. I have my own inner demons that I have to work through. You know, I have health anxiety. I've gone through those types of things, regardless of how much education I have and how much I understand. The little guy in your brain can sometimes make you go into a circle and you don't know what to think anymore. So I've found that an unbiased mediator, so my counselor, has been really beneficial to me and has helped me to continue to stay on track in terms of all the goals that I have. So like I said, I'm not perfect. In terms of my athletics and my education and the training and trying to balance all those things out, I am really, really good at. I like to think that I do a great job with that. In terms of inner anxieties and mental health to a degree, there are some things that I've had to personally work on, and I'm perfectly okay with saying that. I can be open with that. That's fine. It's a part of my life and who I am. So I've found that going to see somebody every week, every other week, has been really beneficial to me to help me continue to stay on track. And I would say anybody that is trying the best they can to be the best person they can be, you don't have to have any quote unquote issues mentally or, you know, socially to go see somebody and just talk. It's nothing wrong with just having a conversation like we are right now, just trying to figure out life and seeing what works best for a person or other people. So yeah, I really think that trying to stay organized to the best of your ability and finding a way to organize that, the best way to go. So,
yeah, I think that's a perfect transition. I have one more question for you.
Yeah, man.
So we were talking just kind of about that. This kind of works really well with it is, so if you had someone that came up to you, friend, family, whoever, that was maybe, I like to go kind of in our age range, but maybe you can take it any direction, that came up to you and asked you that they were struggling to figure out who they are and what they wanted to do in their life. And they're like, how did you figure out, how did you do what you do? You look like you're so successful, you're going in the right direction. What advice would you give someone that's maybe not as disciplined and struggling to figure out who they are and what they want?
I wouldn't be afraid to try many different things and seeing what sticks. And like I told you before, in high school, I did a lot of different activities in all different realms, and it required me to use my brain and my body in multiple different ways. Yeah. From there, that really helped me to kind of find what works best for me, and all the qualities I developed from all those activities, like I said earlier, has narrowed me down to this point that I knew that this is what I wanted. I think for those people who don't know what their passions are and what makes them tick, that they should just try as many things as possible in a way that doesn't stress them out.
Right.
And kind of see what makes their heart go, what makes them feel alive, what makes them feel the happiest, what makes them show their best personality, what makes them have a great day, what allows them to be the best person they can be, but also more importantly, make the people around them be the best person they can be. And a great analogy that I've heard before is, for example, on an airplane, the thing that they tell you about the oxygen mask when it drops down, if it's high altitude or whatever, you need to put it on yourself first before you put it on your children.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to take care of yourself and find the things that work best for you. That way you can go forth and do good things for other people. So if you're stuck and you're trying to find something that really works well for you, you're passionate about, you need to make sure it's what makes you truly happy and not just the people around you. I think that's really, really important. Take care of yourself. Find the things that make you feel special. That way you can go out and do that for other people.
Yeah,
I think
it makes so much sense. And, I was just talking to someone the other day to your example with on the plane, putting oxygen mask, take care of yourself. I see that so much even in the relationship side, like having a friend that's maybe not happy with himself, doesn't have his passion, is kind of making excuses, and then the relationship fails because he's looking for someone to fill a void that it can't be filled until you're happy with yourself, So I see that too, and it's like, it makes so much sense. Yeah. And I guess I got one other little thing I just thought of is, so a lot of what you're saying too is a lot of this for most people is uncomfortable, so it's kind of just constantly seeking discomfort, kind of pushing yourself out of that, and maybe into an uncomfortable situation because it's the only way you're going to figure things out and grow. you know.
Totally agree. I mean, I'm speaking at Springfield College in a couple weeks. I'm going there. I am. I'm speaking to the Exercise Science 101 class just to kind of give them an
Dr.
idea.
Mora,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
just spoke
Dr.
at her
Bergen.
class actually.
What was that?
I spoke at her class like 3 weeks ago.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know,
it was
it's just
yeah. So go ahead. Yeah.
no. I was just gonna say it's just I've always enjoyed public speaking, but I know for me, similar to what you had just said, I have to do those things in order to see, is it going to make me feel the way that I want to feel? Am I going to feel special? Am I going to feel happy? Is it going to bring out the best in me? And I'm really pushing to do those things. So I emailed them a few weeks ago, couple months ago, said, listen, I want to give back to the people that have given back to me, have given so much to me. Would you have me come by and just speak? Can I have this opportunity to come and speak? And there we go. So now we're here. So don't be afraid to make the leap. Yeah, don't be afraid to take the leap and try these things, no matter what they are. And then see. If it doesn't make you feel good, don't do it again. Right. It's that simple. And then from there, that's how you find your passions, at least through my humble opinion, through my perspective. So
yeah, I'm on the same page. And it was like so to your point with the speaking side of it, is it may not work really well for everybody all the time, but it's also you got to give it a shot. And even for me, like I did it the last 2 years, and this past one I went to, I was like, I didn't think it went that well. I didn't get the greatest react. Some kids were interested. I asked some questions at the end, but then when you get like one or two, I gave them my Instagram and everything like that, and I get like 2 messages like a couple hours later, and they're like, yeah, like actually thought you were one of the better ones as it came in, and like, you know, then it's like, oh, you know, I'm impacting someone just by coming in. So. But that's it, man. So I appreciate coming on, telling me your story, kind of connecting with everybody at a deeper level, opening up a bit, and hopefully, you know, people will follow you and continue to, you know, see how you do. Is there anywhere that are you like social media you're on more than others?
So I use a lot more Instagram now, but I also connected to my Facebook. So you can find me at Lift Well, Move Well at, you know, Instagram. So Lift Well, Move Well. And you can find me there. Find me on Facebook, Matthew Bernier, Bernier. And yeah, man, that's where you can find me.
Cool. All right, man. Thanks for having coming on again, and we'll obviously be in touch soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Come on. I'll edit that. There we go. I'll get this up.
We did it.
Yeah, that was cool, man.